Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. And Andy, I just want to know if you were just revitalized from being dead, would you even know it?
It depends on if the ghost of Mary Shelley was in my head telling me, because I think that's something that happened in this movie that we're going to talk about today. I'm not really sure.
You know what? You just said, I think a key phrase that's going to come up probably repeatedly in this episode is something I think happened in this movie.
Yeah.
So this week we are talking about The Bride. The Bride exclamation point.
Yes.
Is written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. This is a movie that we have mentioned several times in the build up to it. That is a movie we were mainly interested in because the tremendous talent involved with this project. Um, and I said specifically, I think I pointed out, like, nothing about the previews of the source material is really interesting me at all, but there's just such good people involved in it.
Yep.
So we're going to jump in pretty quickly here. I'm going to give a summary, which this is one of the hardest summaries I've ever had to write.
Good luck to you, my friend. Well, neither does the movie, so it's
like
fine.
we're really taking our hand a little bit here.
We
Okay.
are.
So here's my summary. Yeah. Ida is possessed by the spirit of Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, who leads her into a public outburst that leads to her death at the hand of gangsters in 1930 Chicago. She is then reinvigorated back to life when her corpse is dug up by a mad scientist and Frank, aka Frankenstein's monster, because Frank is lonely and wants a wife. Now Ida and Frank embark on a crazy journey that leads to run-ins with the law, gangsters, and each other. Andy, was The Bride good?
Ugh. Jeremy, so I've really thought long and hard about this. This movie's a mess, okay? Like we've already tipped our hands to. It's a mess. It's a humongous swing. I'm not upset that they took the swing. I don't think it worked, but I'm glad this movie exists because I do like the idea of really talented, creative people trying to go big. Now, inevitably, when that happens, you're going to get some misses. And I do think this is a miss, although I do think there are some good aspects of this movie. But it's kind of a mess. But yet, a mess that I'm glad exists. That's probably as confusing as this movie is. But that's kind of where I landed.
I think this is an all-time example of great performances in a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I think about the movie, the more I'm convinced it was a dumpster fire. But this dumpster fire had two of the best in the business, just fully committed and doing great work. I'm not kidding when I say that I think this might be Jessie Buckley's most impressive performance. And yes, she is likely about to deservedly win an Oscar for Hamnet. And I'm still saying that.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
She is not the
She
problem
is
with this
incredible.
movie.
No, she is incredible. She's incredibly committed to the part. It's an incredibly demanding part because it's a very physical performance. It's a very vocally challenging performance. Just her expressiveness and her charisma. She's the main thing. I mean, in the rewatchables, they do this thing, who won the movie, and I would be like 100% Jessie Buckley is the one who comes out of this movie going like she's the winner of the movie. Christian Bale close behind. Again, Christian Bale is just, I think, incapable of being bad in a movie.
Correct.
But it's those two being so eccentric and so crazy for this whole movie that makes this dumpster fire watchable. Like, I'll be honest, as I was sitting there, even as I was watching the movie, and I was kind of like, this is just bad, isn't it? There was not a point where I was just like, this is boring and I'm embarrassed for this movie or anything like that. It's more just like, this is weird and bad choices and it's not really well crafted, and yet, what a show.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't have much to add to that. I mean, clear. I agree with you 1,000%. This is the Jessie Buckley show. She is incredible, and it's even more incredible because, side note, I did see Hamnet finally. It's incredible that she can do Hamnet and this. I mean,
Yeah,
that
back
is
to back.
truly, truly incredible. Obviously, these two performances have nothing, in common or anything, and for her to be able to be as phenomenal as she is in both is unbelievable. It's always not like we needed a reminder that Christian Bale is incredible, but we get it. But yeah, the problem is, I mean, no disrespect, I like her, but Maggie Gyllenhaal, she just wrote a mess of a screenplay. and she's trying to do everything in this movie. Like this movie is like 7 movies mashed together. Maybe if she would have just picked like 3 movies to mash together, it would have been better.
Yeah, I guess that's sort of the irony is that this movie is itself sort of a Frankenstein. It does feel like she pieced together a
Yeah.
bunch of different movies. The story is all over the place. I'm not really sure that she knows what she wants this movie to be.
Yeah.
Um, and you could even see it with the characters. I mean, even just our lead characters, I'm not sure at any point what I was supposed to think or feel about them. It's like she kind of wanted them to be monstrous. She kind of wanted them to be like outlaws on the run, but she also wanted them to be sort of the good guy heroes. So they were kind of likable sometimes, kind of not. And like, look, I'm all for character complexity. Like characters can have multitudes, but it really ultimately added to like just character ambiguity. I was like, I don't know who these characters are,
Hmm.
even after all we've been through with them.
Yeah, it's the I mean again, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to just turn this into the bash Maggie Gyllenhaal, but yeah, this screenplay is just a mess. It is just a mess. There's not clear motivations. There's this really bad subplot with Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz that just really doesn't work at all, and it's a mess. But yeah, it's like you said, it's like you're balancing the scales. Like bad screenplay, Christian Bale and Jesse Buckley just on fire in this movie, and that helps to make the scales not so one-sided, so where this is just an all-time terrible movie. And without Bale and Buckley, it probably would be. It would just be such a mess. It would be irredeemable.
Yeah, and it's confusing right from the start because it opens on that sort of black and white close up of Jesse Buckley as Mary Shelley
Yeah.
talking about like being Mary Shelley, and I don't even remember what all she's saying. And she's like, I'm gonna overtake this character Ida. But from the beginning, I'm like, okay, so is this her saying I'm gonna tell a whole new story and this is all fictitious and that's where we're supposed to be going with it? Or is it this, I don't know, Mary Shelley was a real person and it's saying, what if Mary Shelley as the real person possessed this person? I don't know. And then the fact that Frankenstein shows up, a creation of Mary Shelley in Mary Shelley's world, I don't know. At no point did I understand like the layers, the weird, like Wes Anderson levels of layers of storytelling that were happening here.
Yeah, that first 5 minutes is a mess. And really, it's almost like a mess. It's like, if you're in track and you're running like the 100 meters or something, and everybody else gets like a 30-meter head start on you. Like this movie starts off so bad. And like, it's not Jesse Buckley's fault, but just that scene with her in the restaurant, it just feels like she's just yelling mumbo jumbo and like writhing all over these guys for no reason and awkwardly eating oysters. And so that first 5 minutes, I was like, oh no, like this is going to be an all time, like this is going to be the next Madam Web type situation. And then it did kind of chill out a little bit and get a little bit more, not normal, but I don't know. Like that first 5 minutes was a bad, bad start.
Yeah, it really was. I there's things I kind of want to get into about this movie, and yet I don't really want to get into. It's the sort of things that I feel like I criticize the podcast that we love, The Big Picture, but I criticize them a lot because they always want to get into like, well, what is this movie saying? What's the context
Mhm.
of our current culture and all that stuff? And I'm like, I definitely don't care to get into all that, but I do feel like this movie was trying to. And part of the problem with this movie is that I think it was very clearly trying to have a message about sort of like women empowerment or women being oppressed and rising up against it. And it had that message. And yet the whole storyline of Frankenstein or Frank and the bride ran counter to it. Like,
Yeah.
if that message was really the message you're trying to send, then the fact that he sort of like dug her up, lied to her, and tried to create this whole false world with her is like a prime example of the very thing she should be rebelling against. But the movie wants to have its love story, monster love story, and the other side too, and that really just is at odds.
It really is. And that's just a big point of contention with me in this whole movie too. It's like either run with this whole like because there's like a montage scene of all these women rising up and they put the paint on their faces to look like the bride and they even have like a saying. What do they say? Like something about their brain or something, isn't it? I don't know.
So, something like that. Or they also say something like the dead speak or something like
Something
that.
like
I don't
that.
know.
Yeah. So it's
There's
like run with that, or run like you said, like she's just trying. That's what I mean when I just say like Maggie Gyllenhaal just trying to do everything in this movie, and then we just get song and dance at different points, and that was really entertaining. It was really entertaining to watch Bale and Buckley just fully commit to turning this into a musical at one point in the movie, but it's just you're pulling on all of these threads, and it's very, very messy.
Yeah. Did you also have the same thought that I did during this movie, which is that this really felt like uh, somebody said, let's redo Joker Folie à Deux and make it a little better. Not like make it great, but like let's take Joker Folie à Deux from an F to like a C minus.
I
Because
100% had that thought.
the bride was definitely like, hey, what if we have Harley Quinn, her be like Harley Quinn,
Yeah,
basically, and Frankenstein's kind of almost like a little Jokerish in that Joker world, like where he's kind of pathetic and pitiful and just wants to be loved or whatever. And then they go on a criminal spree that's sometimes a musical that they do all this crazy stuff, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we are really Joker Folia doing.
I 100,000% had that thought, and I also had the same thought where it's like I definitely prefer this over Joker Folie à Deux, which was just miserable.
Yeah, I mean, I would watch this, 10 times before watching Folia do again.
Amen. Me too. Yeah, definitely. It definitely
And
felt like a cousin of Joker Folie à Deux.
yeah, and it was also a reminder of we say a lot of times on this podcast when a movie is bad and people don't come across great in it, and we say things like it's not their fault, it's the screenplay's fault.
Hmm.
And watching this movie, it's not that that's not true all of a sudden, but it's just a reminder of like really talented people you'd never have to say that for.
Hmm.
Because this is a movie easily that I could have seen having to go like, listen, it's not Bale and Buckley's fault. The screenplay let him down. The screenplay did let him down, but like I never once felt like I had to say, well, they weren't good in it because of the screenplay. They were great in it, and it didn't matter that the screenplay wasn't great.
Yeah, they are such a force of nature in this movie that they're able to break through any barriers that the screenplay has for them. Yeah, absolutely. They come out of this movie, if anything, looking better than they did going into it because they, you know, took this not so great screenplay. And I mean, honestly, like, I don't want to use hyperbole or anything, but Jessie Buckley, I think this is just one of the all time most memorable performances. Like, it truly is. I mean, she is an absolute force of nature in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it. I was like, I mean, who knows anymore? Because the Academy Awards are so weird. Like, I've ever since the Everything Everywhere All at Once Oscars, I have no idea what to expect from the Oscars. But
Right.
I sit there and go like we're gonna get to the end of the year, and I would be really shocked if I didn't feel strongly that that was one of the top five actress performances of the year. Like,
Oh,
really shocked
absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
as I said, I thought Hamnet was this powerhouse performance that she's a runaway favorite for to win the Oscar for this year. And don't get me wrong, Hamnet I think is a lot better movie. It's a performance that feels a lot more Oscar-y. I mean, it's the mother who's experienced a tragedy and gets to be very emotional. But this one, if I was just thinking for like what would be harder to pull off, what do I think other actors and actresses, if given the scenes, would have a harder time making look good? I think this movie is 100% the harder, challenging thing. And so I would love to see the Academy go like, because this was so hard and she made it look so good, this is a great acting performances and deserves to be recognized.
Once again, I have no notes. I couldn't agree with you more. I just, I have, if nothing else that came out of this movie is like, I will now call myself a Jessie Buckley fan. Like, I want to see what she is doing next. I want to watch her up on the screen again.
Yes, for sure. Uh, I've thought about like how I want to try to unpack some of this story, which we've alluded to little bits of it before, but it's just so daggum hard to unpack.
It's really hard.
I guess I will start here. But you know what? Actually, I want to start here with this. Really good makeup job by the makeup team, I think.
Hmm.
I think they did a good job with Christian Bale making him look like Frankenstein and look, I mean, like they do the thing where everybody who sees him like screams or freaks out or like, oh, he's, scary looking. And too often in these movies, they don't actually make him look that like scary or repulsive or whatever. And I think they actually did a good job of actually making him look enough like that. I mean, just from the like staples across his head and like the scars and the chunks missing from his body. It was like, okay, he actually looks pretty gruesome. And then it's such a like I don't know, it's probably such a small idea when it happened, but just a stroke of genius just to have the like black ink stain on the bride's face, which like you said, they became like a thing that people were mimicking. The women in the streets were all doing the black, and I'm like, that brilliant, brilliant costuming right there.
I loved the look of both of them, and I love that they look different. And yeah, it's funny sometimes in these movies or in any movies, sometimes just the simplest things work out for the best, where it's like, just give her some black, kind of like black dots. It basically just looks like ink on her face. And it's like,
Yeah,
somehow that is the exact right choice. Like, if I can imagine, I assume this was a Maggie Gyllenhaal decision, and I wonder if she had to fight for that. Because, you explain that, and I could just imagine people being like, well, that sounds stupid. Like, and really, just to continue the praise of Jessie Buckley, like everything they did for her worked, like the hair, everything. Like it just seemed like it was the right choice. It's really incredible. And I thought Bale, like you looked great. I loved the crooked nose, like the kind of like his nose was. I just thought all that was really well done.
yeah. I think the black ink smear on the face is the early runner or early candidate for this year's like weapons kids running with their arms out
Hmm.
thing. The thing, like
Yep.
small thing that just makes a world of difference. That just
Yep.
is an iconic look that catches on.
Exactly. And same thing, probably when they described weapons, it's like, yeah, they just run with their arms out. Like, okay. And then for whatever reason, the way the stars align, it just is the perfect choice. I agree. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So now that I've said that, trying to get into this movie a little bit. Like you said, we have this very confusing open. We open in
Re-
1930s Chicago before we get our title card, Dub Bride, and then we kind of cut to more of the perspective of Frank or Frank. Why would Frankenstein's monster go by Frank? I don't
yeah.
know.
I don't
It's
know
just
either.
the whole thing was confusing. It's like they
Yeah.
were like, we know everybody accidentally calls the monster Frankenstein, so let's not confuse the audience and let's just
Yeah. Let's
call
just
him
lean
Frank.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Although it would have been funny if he would have given himself a new name and it was something just like, I'm Bert,
Yeah. That'd have
something
been
like that.
great. That'd have been awesome.
Uh, so yeah, it's him showing up to this. Uh, I think it's another author because he's like, I've read your books, but she's like a mad scientist author played by Annette Bening.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, I want you to make a companion for me. Basically, is what he says. And
Yeah.
this is the stretch of the movie that really felt like, okay, we've got it. We all know where we're getting, and we got to get there. And you can't really, you've got to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it was like, can we just get to it? So he finally convinces her. They dig up a body, of course, the Jesse Buckley body, and then they. I'm glad they didn't waste too much time with the mumbo jumbo of how do we pull this off, because
Yeah.
I thought
Thank
that was the
goodness.
mistake of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Is they like really spent like an hour of the movie trying to fake science this, and it's like it's all fake science. Why am I wasting so much time with it?
Yeah. Just pull
And
this
they just
lever and she's alive. It's fine.
yeah, just zap her to life. That's fine.
Yep. It's fine.
Um, and then yeah, I kind of enjoyed the chaos of the early stages of her trying to figure things out and him trying to figure her out and all the navigating of that. It was a little bit another movie that reminded me of a little bit of Poor
Poor
Things
things.
early on. Yeah, Jesse Buckley trying to figure things out, especially that like dinner scene where she's just like knocking stuff off the table and saying I would prefer not, or I would, what is that what she says? I prefer not to, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Very, very poor things ish. And maybe that's another problem with this movie is that this definitely has some poor things DNA to it. It's got some Joker folly do DNA to it. We just had Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Like, this movie is so weird. I'm not saying it's like familiar territory, but it definitely is picking the parts of other movies that have been out within the last couple of years. And you're like, well, I mean, I've kind of seen this already, but
Yeah. Uh, it's definitely a like most people are the worst type movie.
yeah.
Which I think is kind of a common theme in Frankenstein stories. Is like the whole thing is he's viewed as the monster, but it's most people that are really the monsters. But
Right.
this movie really leans into it where like every character they interact with is like, they go to a club and of course some of these guys are just like really aggressive towards the bride. We'll just put it that way. And then even
Yeah.
as they're trying to leave, like they're just really trying to pick a fight with Frankenstein. Like, they just come up
Yeah.
and start like slapping him and hitting him, and then in the street trying to be aggressive. And it's like, okay, like yes, I'm not saying like assault doesn't happen, but like my gosh, like every turn, all these people are the worst.
It's very heavy-handed with that stuff. Yeah, there's like 80% of the men in this movie, when they see Jessie Buckley, they just immediately start like groping her, like pretty aggressively, and you're like, all right, like this is a little heavy-handed.
Yeah. Uh, and so we end up like, so that's sort of the inciting thing for what the rest of the movie is, because these guys are really aggressive towards him, and Frank finally snaps and ends up killing the guys,
Yeah.
and then they're on the run from the law. And now we've got sort of this on the run from the law story where they're going basically cross country. There's a whole subplot where he's obsessed with these, old timey movies. I mean, they were just movies of the time, and it's kind of a funny joke that Jake Gyllenhaal, Maggie's brother, is the movie star that he's obsessed with. I do think they really overstretched that joke. I thought like the one movie he's watching and enjoying, I was like, that's a great joke, but then it just sort of kept happening, and that became like the whole kind of key to the movie is that he just chases around watching this guy's movies in every city.
Yeah, it was. I don't know quite know where I land on that either because I love Jake Gyllenhaal and he's up for the task. I mean, he's doing what he's asked to do in this movie, and I do think it's a smart idea to cast him. Like it's good casting, I think, because he can do the whole like he's really nice and charming and lovable, but he also has that kind of like douchey side to him he can bring out if he needs to. And there is something kind of funny about the idea that Frank just loves to watch these movies. And it does give you some funny visuals. Like to me, it was really funny when the bride and Frank go into the 3D movie and they're just wearing the 3D glasses. Like I couldn't help but kind of laugh at just the weirdness and the absurdity of it. But it also is also a part of the overall big problem, which is just the messiness of this movie and this screenplay. But I did get some enjoyment out of that stuff.
Yeah, it did lead to maybe my favorite moment of the movie is because again we get a guy just being the worst because he is being very aggressive with his date right in front of him in the
Yes,
theater, and the girl keeps
yes.
saying no, and he just keeps pushing through until finally she hits him and then berates him, and then everybody sees him and freaks out and runs out because they're yelling the monsters are there. But it leads to a shot of the streets where everybody's running and screaming, and uh, Peter Sarsgaard just in great deadpan just goes, "I think we should go over there."
That
and
is that was really good. I
yeah,
will not take that away from him at
that's
all.
good. I didn't realize this till I was looking at some of the trivia that he's married to Maggie Gyllenhaal, and
Yeah,
so that's
yeah,
probably the reason why he's casted this part.
yep.
Um, so the cops that are after them are him, Peter Sarsgaard, and Penelope Cruz, who's not a detective but works with Sarsgaard, and he like I guess he recognizes that she's really good at this, but of course nobody else is, and this is where I go back to like again, do I get that like people were very resistant to women having roles like this, and there's probably a lot of misogyny that was very tough to deal with. I get that, but man, it is just exhausting sometimes in these movies. Just like every single thing they encounter, everybody's just saying the most like, "Oh yeah, a woman detective, ha ha ha," or "Where's the detective? I don't see him," and they're right in front of them. It's yeah,
That again with the the stuff being so heavy-handed. Like there's parts in this movie where like she's saying something that's obviously the right, obvious, smart thing to say, and there's like 10 male cops in the room and they just literally won't acknowledge her, and you're like, all right, like we get it. And then it just leads to again the kind of the messiness of the screenplay where Peter Sarsgaard just apparently is allowed to just appoint her as a sheriff or like a what he's like, here you go, here's my badge, you're in charge now. And you're just like, what? Like, not that I need, we talk about this all the time. I don't need every single thing in my movies to make sense. And really, most movies don't make any sense. But I do kind of hate the thing where it's just like, oh, all of a sudden, that's just a thing you can do now. And it was
yeah.
just
I
like,
mean, like
all right.
there's sort of like just roll with it, sort of levels of stretching believability, and then there's like guys, everybody knows this is not how this works. You don't just get to appoint your
Yeah.
successor as a
And
detective.
she, and then, yeah, she just all of a sudden, like, she's just on the case. And then she, like, even flashes that badge at one point. She's like, I'm in charge. And it's like, I mean, that guy just handed you his badge like an hour ago. So, like, I don't know. And those are probably minor nitpicks, but it was just kind of like, it's stuff like that that takes me out of movies, you know? And so that stuff was not great.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, I'm gonna be honest. It's a really hard movie to remember, like how we even get to places.
Right, because at one point
It,
he actually meets the Jake Gyllenhaal person and character because they just
I,
randomly like
it,
wander into a
yeah,
party, right?
it's right after the scene I was just talking about because it's when they're running out of the theater and all the people are running from. They hide and like duck through this back door through a kitchen, and then they show up at this fancy, yeah, like fancy ball or something or gala, and are posing as waiters and waitresses, and then he sees there's Jake Gyllenhaal's character and approaches him, and of course he's really awkward and yeah,
Yeah, and that's annoying. But then this movie kind of does the thing like where you want to be annoyed at it, but then they break out in that song and dance, and you're like, well, gosh darn it, this is kind of endearing to watch. You know, ultra mega serious method actor Christian Bale do this ridiculous dance with all these people, and it's like that's why this
yeah.
movie is not going to be an all-time bad movie because there is enough of that kind of stuff that is super entertaining.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's very confusing because the movie
Yeah,
just turns into thriller for like 5 minutes, and you're
it
like,
does.
what is happening? Did they just mind control all these people around? It sort of seems that way, and it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's never explained. It never happens again.
Nope.
It
Doesn't
just
even kind of
it
make
just
any sense. It just happens.
yeah, and then that's when we really kind of get the first big monologue
Hmm.
from Jesse Buckley from the bride because the cops show up and they stop the dance sequence, but they've got guns on her. She pulls out a gun. She starts like spouting off, and I think it's made it seem like Mary Shelley somehow knows all this, or maybe Ida knows all this, but Mary Shelley's the one who has access to her memories. So Mary Shelley starts making her spout out all this, like, you did this and that, and this guy did this, and basically all these men are villains, and why are you looking for us? Um, Again, stretching the believability of a movie, she ends up shooting a cop, and I'm like, okay, not that that's unbelievable, but this is why the hundreds of chances that the cops would have had to shoot her when she never put the gun down and was waving it around, they would have taken at some point before they let her just shoot one of them. Uh, so
Yeah, Jesse, the bride and Frank, they have, you know, at different points in the movie, they have it feels like 75 cops all pointing guns at them, and they just kind of waltz away effortlessly. That stuff's really bad. But yeah, that stuff, and this is again where I'm going to blame Maggie Gyllenhaal's writing. All this stuff where you're like, wait, is this Mary Shelley talking? Is this Mary Shelley accessing Ida's? It's a jumbled, confusing mess. And I mean, Maggie Gyllenhaal should go give her salary to Jesse Buckley for this movie because it's Jesse Buckley's performance that makes this watchable. Because what she's saying is sloppy and confusing dialogue, you know, that's poorly written. So, you know, Jesse Buckley is the one that saves the day when it comes to this stuff. And then all the subplot with the mafia is just terribly done, and you really never have a handle on who this guy is and what Ida's relationship to his. I mean, Peter Sarsgaard kind of sloppily explains it towards the end of the movie, but it's all a jumbled mess.
it really is. They cast as sort of the main mob like bad guy. Uh, I'm not even going to try to say the guy's name, but he's a guy who's been showing up a lot recently. I first saw him in Triangle of Sadness, but then he was also in last year's Superman as sort of the
Hmm.
leader of that foreign country that Lex Luthor was working with.
Yeah.
Um, and this dude, like, kudos to him. He's just really been like, I know what I look like, and I'm going to lean into playing these sleazy old rich villains.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah. He's,
Uh, yeah. And then poor John Magero, I guess that's how you pronounce it, who's playing the like mob henchman, and people will recognize him from several things. He was in The Big Short. He
yeah.
was in what was the Olympic news coverage movie September 5th, I think it was what it was
Yeah.
called. Was it
Yeah.
5th?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't even remember.
I think so.
But he was in Past Lives too. But Anyways, yeah, September 5th, that was the movie. He's a really good actor. And he
Hmm.
was nothing but just like a henchman that's just sort of like wandering through this movie with kind of a
Yeah.
dumb look on his face.
Yeah, this poor guy has nothing to do except wander around and kind of peek around the corners with a gun. Like he just has nothing to do in this movie. I feel bad for him.
Yeah. I know we're not like covering everything. That's fine. We don't need to talk forever about this movie, but I do just want to get to the ending.
Hmm.
First off, they never really established many rules with Frankenstein and the Bride as far as like, I mean, just anything about him. Like, is there anything supernatural about them other than just the fact that they're alive when they should be dead? They clearly don't have the sort of Wolverine type healing that Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein had,
Right.
or even, I mean, like he seems to be strong, but I don't know if he's super strong. They obviously can die just by being shot.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just having to learn this. Like things happen, you're just like, oh, I guess that's what it is. And so, uh, you know, he gets shot and he, I guess, dies. And so the bride takes him back to the mad scientist and is basically like, I need you to bring him back to life for me. Um, because apparently she's decided that she does love him. And that was sort of felt undeserved, but
Rushed.
that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So then we get this convergence of all the characters, as you tend to get in most climaxes. You've got them in there in this scientist office. You got all the cops converging with Penelope Cruz. You've got the sort of hitman for the mob who's there, and when they're all trained with their guns on them, the hitman fires a gun, and so of course all the cops just unload a ridiculous amount of bullets on the bride. And I'm going to be honest, this is the scene I most thought like I could see this being cut out on social media and made fun of because of the how long and how it went on with her writhing and all these gunshots going on forever until finally Penelope Cruz, the one person with a brain cell because she's the woman, tells them all like, "Hey, enough! Like she's dead. Like we've shot her 1,000 times. I think we've covered it."
That was really bad. That was really poorly done. The problem too is like it's fine when all your stories finally converge at the end of your movie, like Weapons, when it's a
Mm-hmm.
really well written movie. In this movie, you've got
Yeah,
all these different threads coming together, but none of them were ever fully explored. So it's not even that interesting or exciting or thrilling when they all come together. And yes, it is time to retire the one person shoots, so then everybody shoots 300 times because one person shot. Like movies have been doing that for way too long now. That is played out and it needs to be retired.
yeah. And then Penelope Cruz, she finally like takes control of the scene and she does the very casual. Oh, and there's a guy running down the fire escape that I think you should go after. I'd like to talk to him. And it's like, really, nobody else thought, hey, this guy who fired the first shot, maybe we should look after him. And
It's
you're gonna
really
wait until
bad.
he's made halfway made his escape before you even reference go after him. Like it's just, yeah, it's very, very silly.
It's very poorly done. And then we get this scene between Annette Bening and Penelope Cruz where she's like, "Hey, I'm just going to step outside. Like, take as long as you need." And I think, and we've seen that cliche in movies before where it's like, wink, like, do the thing that you need to do. But nothing has been established. Like, you don't understand what Penelope Cruz's motive is or what she's even truly asking Annette Bening to do. Like, I guess it's to bring them back to life, but you're like, why would Penelope Cruz care if they're brought back to life? So again, it's just bad writing, and it just didn't work at all to me. I was just like, what? I don't know or care really what they're talking about at this point. I just thought that was all really poorly done.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the reception of this movie. I feel
Hmm.
like critics have not quite known what to do with this movie. It's got a 59% from critics, 73% from audiences. That actually surprised me that it was that high
That's
from audiences. I figured this
that's
movie's
really
just
surprising.
weird enough that most people would be like, "I don't get it," and give it a lower score. But yeah, the 59% from critics, I was really curious to see what they would think because it is such a big swing. And sometimes critics just reward the big swing and the crazy stuff that's done. But I do think critics could not overlook what a kind of jumbled mess the story was.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
So this movie was made for somewhere between 80 and 90 million dollars. Andy, you want to tell us a little bit about what it's done at the box office?
Yeah, I was just saying earlier that I like when people take big swings like this, but the reason they don't get to very often is because a lot of times they fail miserably, and this failed miserably. It opened to $8 million in the U.S. And then if you add on what it made overseas, I think the grand total for the weekend was like $16 million. Um, and I just don't see this movie having any legs whatsoever. So I think this is going to end up being a massive, massive financial failure, which, despite my complaints about the movie, I do hate to see because to me, it just feels like for every time this happens, the studios are just going to go back to their comfort and they're just like, well, just greenlight another Transformers movie because those make a ton of money. And so it just feels like every time a movie like this fails, it lessens the chance that we're going to get these big swing, weird, far out movies. And that does hurt a little bit. That stings a little bit to me because the worst thing a movie can be is dull and boring. And this is not dull and boring, but this is going to be this is a big failure. So
Yeah, I think the one thing that it's got going for it, which is not even necessarily a big thing, because again, I don't think this movie it didn't do well initially, and it's not going to retain as much. But there's not like a big release next week that's going
mhm.
to take over theaters. So that's the one hope that it has, is that there's not, like I said, a big release coming out. I was curious. I didn't even look at this, Andy. Did you happen to look at how Scream 7 held up in its second weekend?
Scream 7 had like a 70 something percent drop. It had a
Hmm.
huge drop. I mean, it still made like $17 million, and it's still on track to become the highest grossing Scream movie. But like the people that wanted to see it rushed out. And I think probably because of, like we talked last week, it did, a lot of people thought it was a weak entry and stuff. So it didn't have a lot of repeat business, but it's still going to be okay. And I'm not trying to just defend Scream. Like that's a big drop. But horror movies almost always, especially like these slasher movies, they almost always suffer the big second weekend drop. They are heavily dependent on that opening weekend. So, I mean, Scream's still going to be fine. It was into profitability after last week, so it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I was not surprised to see, like, I went and saw The Bride on Friday afternoon just after work. It was like a 4 o'clock showing. Um, I showed up to the theater about 4:15 because I usually don't leave work till around 4, but I know I've got that 30-minute preview cushion. So,
Yep.
but there was a couple people in front of me getting their tickets. I think like there was a couple just finishing up getting their concessions, leaving. A couple people in front of me scanning tickets and going, and then I got up to the counter, and the guy scanning my ticket looks at me and goes, "I'm not kidding you when I say this is the busiest I've been all day. Just a couple customers in a row." He's like, "It's
Yeah.
been dead," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that's weird." And I felt it. I kind of looked around the theater and I was like, nobody else is around. Now it's the middle of Friday afternoon, so like I thought maybe when I leave and it's more like 6:30, and I'm leaving around 6:30, and it's like, man, it's still pretty dead around here.
Yeah. So I went to see The Bride with my mom. We went on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock and pulled up to the theater, and we could have parked anywhere we wanted. Like it was just, yeah. And to go back to Scream real quick, the people that want to see that, they're going to rush out and see it before, the big reveals get spoiled and stuff. But I'm not surprised that The Bride didn't do great, but $8 million is really, really bad. I mean, it's really low. And, I would have thought if nothing else, maybe just a little Jesse Buckley momentum would have helped this a little bit more just because there's a lot of, I mean, to me, it's almost a guarantee she's going to win Best Actress next Sunday at the Oscars. So I thought maybe that would propel, just a little bit of this. But it's a tough beat for this movie. It's going to be a big, big loss. So
Yeah, it is a tough beat. It just goes to show. I mean, like this is why we reference it so often when we talk about Chalamet. Is there just aren't a lot of people who, as good as they are, their name is enough for a movie to be successful.
yeah, absolutely, because it's not a lack of star power. I mean, even just having a Maggie Gyllenhaal movie, like she's known. Like I mean, she's in The Dark Knight. Like people like her, and yeah, not enough to help this movie. I just think the weirdness and when a movie is this weird and this far out there, it just naturally makes it harder to market. I mean, how do you throw out a preview for a movie this strange and this all over the place that's going to draw people in, and it didn't. So
Yeah, you're correct. All right. Well, Andy, the next time that people will see us, we are going to be doing our version of awards for 2025 movies. I would say our
Yeah.
version of the Oscars, but it's not even the Oscars at that point. But we just like to say, the Oscars give out their picks for best of the year, and we have strong opinions about what should have been represented, both as nominees and as winners. And so we have a lot of fun talking through those things and making our picks. And we'll be doing that. Uh, we'll record at some point this week, and then we'll release at some point. I'm going to plan to before the actual Oscars come out, so people want to see what we would pick before they see what the Oscars pick. That would be, something we could offer. So,
I'm
yeah,
really excited to do that. I always look forward to that. It's a lot of fun.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, there's really not, like I said, a big release coming out next week. I think the one new movie that I saw it's a movie called Undertone. I think it's a new horror movie, or
It
just
is, and
what is it called? Something. Yeah,
undertone, I think. And
yeah,
I really am
Undertone.
excited about it, but I'm really hesitant to be excited about it because the last time this happened, we got Psycho Killer. But yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. I'm looking forward to it. And then after that, we got Project Hail Mary, so things are, the following week, I mean. So looking forward to that.
Yeah,
There's some fun stuff coming.
yeah. All right. Well, uh, thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you again soon.
See you soon.